You ready for this?
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn. Hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
Welcome to the 45th episode of Trollin HGC, Heroes of the Storm podcast, focused member of the Trolls.gg Entertainment Network. I'm your host, LiQuid, and I'm joined as always today by Bahgz and Goon. How's it going, boys?
What is going on? I am just laughing at the conversation we just that just took place while the intro was playing.
No spoilers, no spoilers.
Okay, good.
But
Good.
we have a special guest joining us today, coach of GFE for Phase 1 2018, CavalierGuest, the Art of the Tank. How is it going, my friend?
It's going really well. Glad to be on the show. Excited to be here. It's been a while since I was on the show last, I think, actually. Right?
It has. Yeah.
It's been almost a year. So lots happened.
Dang.
Busy times, man. You were coaching a team. We happened at scrim times.
Not anymore. Well, actually, still technically. But
Right.
The scrim schedule for NA actually did change.
I
The
saw
teams
that. It
got
shifted.
together and decided that they're going to go from 12 to 3 and from 4 to 7 now.
I
So,
saw that, but that's still only that 1 hour slot makes it difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, other than I mean, you know what? I'm not even gonna spoil that stuff. I know Goon's got lots of stuff. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna just jump into it. First though, I'm gonna let Bahgz talk about Patreon a little bit.
All right. Well, guys, our Patreon is a great. If you enjoy the show or anything that the Trolls.gg network provides for you, you're welcome to check out patreon.com/trollsgg, where you can help support us. You can donate $1 once a month. You can donate $10 once a month. However you want to do it, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. But if it's something you choose to do, there are various reward tiers that you can unlock, as well as a community. As we reach these goals, we unlock stuff for the entire community to enjoy. Currently, we are at $29 of $115 a month towards our second goal, which is a call-in show. Where once a month we'll do a call-in show for basically fans of the shows to kind of call in and ask the host questions that whatever, like what's my favorite food or something, macaroni. But it's not.
Wait, your favorite food is?
It's not. It's an example. I'm using it as an example. We have unlocked after show games. So after tonight's show, for those who are watching live in chat right now, be sure to hang out or join the Discord, and you will be able to join us for some after show games. I believe I have time for 2 tonight, exactly 2.
Awesome.
So keep that in mind, guys. And that is Patreon.
All right. And then along with Patreon, we have our Troll of the Week this week. And we're going to thank Mystic Shroud. If you've been following Trolls recently, you know that we are handing the show reins over to Goon, Nexus Troll. And last week we had Daz as the Troll of the Week. As without Daz coming up with the idea for doing the show, originally the Nexus Trolls, this show wouldn't exist. The entire Trolls.gg network wouldn't exist. And then, in addition to that, Mystic is also leaving. And without Mystic helping Daz fill that hole when Shiz left, again, none of this would exist. So thank you, Mystic, for being our troll of news. Boys, you guys ready for some news?
Let's dive in.
I'm excited about it.
Tonight on the Trolls.gg Podcast Network, Trollin HGC proudly presents Heroes eSports News, Notes, and Drama with your hosts, LiQuiud and Bahgz.
All right, so news. Interesting tweet came out recently. We were discussing this right before the show, about 3-4 hours ago. A couple of changes to HGC, but the most important thing, Western Clash 2 is going to be in Burbank. That means if you're in NA and you want to see Western Clash, have the ability to do that. What do we think about that? I'm excited about that. What do you guys think about
we actually get a Heroes of the Storm LAN event on American soil.
It's
Except
not
for
BlizzCon.
Except for BlizzCon, this will have been the first one since like 2015, 2016. Like, it's been a while.
At DreamHack, right? I think is what it was.
There was one at DreamHack.
There was one at DreamHack.
Yeah.
It's
And that was
been
the
a,
last one.
it's
been a
been a
long time.
really, really long time. It was before the formation of the league. We didn't have any last year outside of BlizzCon. I like it's something I've been asking for a long time, and I was really disappointed when the first Western Clash wasn't there because again, they just built this new stadium. They are hosting currently Overwatch League there. It's like, let's use it, right? And
Right.
I'm glad that at least we're getting around to it for the second Western Clash. Again, I wish I wasn't building a house right now because like that is focus and priority numero uno.
Well-
Otherwise, I would make a trip out there.
So this is we kind of touched on this a little last week, but if you think back last week, we also said, or last BlizzCon, we said we wish that when they were doing the opening week games, they had sold tickets the opening week games so that BlizzCon people could show up early and maybe attend those. But now this year they're also doing that, so there are a lot of opportunities now for NA people to see LAN events, whether it's Western Clash 2, opening week of BlizzCon, or even BlizzCon.
I'm so ecstatic that they decided to do that. I think someone went in our I tweeted it out like finally they're fixing that, right? And then someone mentioned that the stadium was also brand new at the time, so it might not have been set up for an audience appropriately yet. I don't know if I'd buy that. I feel like you wouldn't open it if it wasn't ready to rock. But still, I'm glad that they decided to change their minds.
There might have been like an inspection issue or something where they couldn't open it up to the public, but having people under their direct employee was fine.
Maybe.
That's a good point.
I mean, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But I was disappointed. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad
there was probably like a red tape reason that they couldn't open it up.
some bureaucratic nonsense.
Yeah, more LAN events. I mean, on local soil, you know, and that's good. That's good for us. And people that necessarily maybe can't make it to BlizzCon this year, this is a chance for them to see, you know, some HGC action, some good old esports in person. So
well, it's really good for community engagement, I think, is the big thing, and it's something that NA struggles with a little bit more than EU. EU has a higher population. All of their players play on the same server, so there's no split there, and so there's much more of a community in EU in the competitive scene in Heroes of the Storm. You don't really need as much incentive, but in NA, the professional community, the competitive community, even you're talking about high-level Hero League players, is kind of fractured. And so having like a central event where people could go and like meet up, it makes a big difference.
yeah, definitely.
So the other news, they are taking out the seeding rounds that they did a la Tempest and or not Tempest, but it worked out good for me with Tempest because they beat Ballistics. I got to laugh at Bahgz. But that's gone. They won't be doing that anymore going after this happens. So that was good news. Patrick from Ballistics said he didn't expect that until next year. So it was kind of cool for them to come out and say these are all the things we're changing for HGC coming up after midseason brawl. There were a number of cool things.
That's a specific thing. So there was the tag along, the side spot. If you won Clash, your region got an additional spot. And they didn't play the seeding match in EU, but they did play the seeding match in Korea. And it confused a lot of people. So I think it's just one of those things where maybe EU and Korea, or maybe even like, because I know the rules are set by, the rules for NA and EU have always been really clear and consistent and the same. Whereas there's always been a little bit of a disconnect for Korea and China. I think part of that's a language barrier. Part of it's the fact that Blizzard is partnered with people in those countries that run the event for them. So they run it directly. And so maybe the rule set is a little bit different. And so being consistent about the rules is actually important to the establishment of HOTS as a competitive game, because you want to make sure that every region has the same rules. And China being a best of two is already kind of awkward.
Throwing that out of whack, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so excuse me. The other thing I thought was interesting is the release period is now after BlizzCon, so no more release. Had to be done, in my opinion, but some people may not agree.
I mean, the official release period was like a day after BlizzCon or something. but I don't
Yeah,
think that was
but-
the major issue. I think the major issue was that a lot of teams, basically every team actually, broke the release period.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. This is not like you're not revealing anything when you talk about how everyone walking around at BlizzCon was talking about what team they were going to be on next season already. Glaurung was telling his fans that he was going to be on Tempo.
Right.
It was an open secret, and that probably shouldn't be okay. Kala tweeted about it at the time. He was like, the release period's a joke. No one's taking it seriously, and it's bad for the health of the competitive scene. There probably needs to be more active administration from Blizzard on that. It's a very hard thing to do because, like, at what point do you cross over the line, like, into like sniping or recruiting just because you're talking? Because all the pro players are friends; they're just talking to each other.
Well, that's where it's interesting, right? And I think we're going to talk more about that later. Is like, more specifically, how do you determine, if you're man, was it poaching or not, right? And then how do you
And then who's snitching, you know? So-
right. Let's move into some Rosterpocalypse. I don't know how much you guys have been following. I'm gonna assume lots.
Yeah.
It's the most interesting thing right now, It's the only it's the only thing.
There's a lot of there are a lot of rumors, and I mean I say rumors very lightly because I mean, like Cav was saying, there's a lot of open secrets that are flying around, there's a lot of open secret talk that goes on, but how do I get into this without
Just jump
like...
in, bro. Just jump in.
I am very curious to see what the final Simplicity roster looks like. I might have an idea. I think I have an idea. And the No Tomorrow roster as well. I'm curious for a lot of the like former GFE. By the way, do you know what their name is now? If they're still going by that, or
They have not announced their current name. They're definitely not going to go by a defunct org name that didn't pay them.
EFG? Is
No,
EFG
wait,
a
why
thing?
not?
They
That
could-
seems so weird.
They can go DGP, man. Didn't get paid.
Didn't get paid. You heard it here first. Bahgz won't even charge you for that name.
Yeah, but I think for the most part everyone knows what the old whatever we'll go with DGP, what DGP roster is gonna look like. But for me, No Tomorrow and Simplicity are two rosters that towards the latter half of the season, last split, made me wonder about how much longer they were going to be in HGC. I'm just throw it out there just like that. They need consistency. They need longevity. They need a team. Not a bunch of players that know how to play the game, but a team. And I'm really worried about Simplicity because those are a bunch of players that know how to play the game. I don't know if they're necessarily a team, but that's just me. Spicy. I'll throw it out
fair.
there.
Well, that's sort
fair.
of the Zuna problem, right? That's like every team Zuna's been on. It's sort of always been about Zuna, and when teams played around Zuna, it was fine. When teams played it like they wanted to play differently, it's fine. It's something every team, literally every team, I think, has struggled with, and the top teams have dealt with it, and the bottom teams have not. They need to have a consistent approach in how they want to play the game as a team, not as individuals, but as a team.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that for whatever reason, it's going to be a problem. If you took old Noblesse. Noblesse was considered one of the smartest players in the entire game. He was a tank player.
Right.
Take old Noblesse, who was a very macro-oriented shot caller, very macro-oriented tank. He doesn't really, and someone overextends in him, he'll get a pick, fine. And put him on old Tempest, which was the most team fight-oriented team in the entire game at the time, and really wanted to fight constantly. Like, those two playstyles wouldn't mesh. Either he would always be out of position, or they would always be out of position. There's multiple correct ways to play the game that will produce wins. Teams just have to be on the same page, which means you need to have people who think about the game in a similar way on the same roster, or people need to learn to adjust and change their play style. But that latter one is apparently really difficult. A lot of pro players will just simply never change their play style.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like you were saying. I mean, this is Kerrigan's not the hot pick anymore. You know what I mean? So
Right. Right. Well, so
You know
there's
what's
so many.
what's interesting about that to me, and I'm sorry to jump all over you,
No,
Liquid,
go
but
ahead, man. Go
it's
ahead.
we had Mac on the show 2-3 weeks ago, right? We had
Give or
McIntyre
take, yep.
on, and
Yep.
and he made the argument that it was pre-Crucible, and he made the argument that Heroes Hearth kind of got where they are now, which is at the midseason brawl. So kudos to them by kind of just like taking what they were good at and running with it, right? And just like amplifying that. And to a degree, that is a really good point, right? Like forcing a team to adjust to you because you play whatever style you play it so well. But it is also important to keep in mind that what do you do when that doesn't work anymore? Do you
Right.
keep forcing the issue? Like I don't know. That's a good point. Cav makes a good point that you have to. I wonder where is that line where you have to like, all right, we have to adjust. You know, we have to we have to evolve, all right, as a team. So it's just interesting.
I think that we're kind of dipping our toes into what we're going to talk about later. But I think that requires a certain level of self-awareness as far as the team is concerned. A team needs to be aware of what they're capable of individually, what they're capable of, and be aware enough of themselves to understand, identify. We need to make the adjustments. What do we need to do? Take the feedback constructively, and not take it so. I don't know. Don't get all butthurt. Yeah, don't take it personally.
Don't take it personally,
And
right?
Yeah, and just understand that the feedback that everyone is giving you is, and that we're giving to everybody is very important. We're doing this because we want you to be better. We want to be better, and we can't get better if we're not all on the same page. If we're not all growing together. If you know,
Right.
and we've all been in situations, team jobs, whatever, where everyone's kind of doing their thing, you know, pushing along, and you always get that one person that's kind of like potentially lagging behind a little bit, and people are like, oh, you know, this guy, he's never doing this, or he's always late, or whatever the case may be. But how many times do people sit down and have that feedback, that discussion, be like, hey man, we're counting on you, we need this, we need you to do this,
Right.
and then give them a chance to improve.
We're going to talk about coaching later, so that's
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
really,
we're
really
definitely.
good segue
We're
to
gonna.
coaching.
But anyways,
I was gonna cut him off there when he finished his thought.
Let's roll it back and talk about rosters though. So
Yeah.
when you're thinking about who's going to go to which roster, teams ideally will be thinking about who has play style that synergizes with ours. You can run tryouts. Not enough teams run tryouts. This is still true in NA. Not enough teams run tryouts. You know, actually having people play with them to see if the play styles match, if they have good comms. And as a result.
Wait, I just want to, like, that right there. Like, that seems crazy to me. Like, why would you do that? Why, like, I coached a 10-year-old competitive soccer team. We had tryouts. They didn't get paid. Like, why would you not do that?
It's a combination of things. So one of the things that's difficult about having tryouts is during the release week, no teams are actually scrimming because playoffs are over, and people who are still going, you know, generally, even they sometimes take a 1 week break. But even then, like sometimes they don't, and they only really get to scrim each other. So it's hard to have tryouts. And sometimes you're trying to avoid drama, so you're hiding that you're kicking certain people, and they don't know that they might be getting kicked. And sometimes you're just like, well, I don't know who would replace them with because they don't want to admit that, you know, that person's getting. So ideally, like you only, like if the system works as intended, you would have a tryout period of everyone who got kicked during your pickup week, and then you would just wait. But I don't know. I honestly can't explain the entirety. Like, there's lots of little things that contribute to this idea of just people being like, and you know, unless you're aiming to be a really top team, picking up someone that you know is going to keep you out of Crucible, pretty safe.
That's good enough, right?
Yeah,
I guess, and that's what I was going to come back to. Really, it comes down to what we should probably have is a longer recruitment period, I guess, for lack of a better word. I think I'm gonna go with that, right? Where you have a 1 week take them off your team period, and then you have 2-3 weeks of recruitment where you can try everybody out and you have time to run those scrims, and everybody's doing the same thing. So it's not like, oh no, like we don't like people know, right? Well, I have tryouts. Let's
Yeah, I think
tryouts
it's. I think
against tryouts.
I mean, I think you could do that in the current system. I think it's mostly a culture problem where people just aren't sure if they want to pick people up, and sometimes there is a bunch of drama involved. Zergling had a tweet longer today where he apparently got picked up by a team, and then people started rumors about him, according to him, and the org decided they didn't want drama, so they didn't actually end up accepting him onto the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Magnified that by 8 teams and maybe 20 or 30 people who are good enough to potentially be pros, and it's a lot of headache. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's obstacles here that all have to do with sort of the culture that is built up in the professional scene and in North America, and it's going to be a long-term problem that I think will eventually get worked out because we've seen signs of it improving every single split when these roster swaps do happen, but it's not going to happen for a while.
I mean, to be fair, like, you put yourself in their shoes, right? So there's only 5 guys on a team. So it's a very personal atmosphere, right? It's a very tight-knit, I'm going to say tight-knit group. It's not like you're on a team where there's 10 players and there, it's typically, the bench players are always fighting for the spot, but the starters are kind of set. It's a very, making one change is a lot more drastic in that case. It is a very tougher thing to do. And think of the fallout. So say all of a sudden, I'm playing for my spot on a team, and like, it's hard to not take it personal. It's very difficult after working with these guys as much as they do, 8 hours a day plus games on the weekends. And then like, they're like, the 4 of them kind of, it's like, it almost feels like you're getting ganged up on when you're like retrying out for your spot. Yes, you retain it, but that's always in the back of your head for the next split too.
Right.
So it's a very fragile thing too, because you want morale to be high, because that also contributes, like, positive momentum. It contributes to more success as well.
Yeah.
And I don't normally like to play devil's advocate because my mindset's very business oriented. Like it's black or white. Like, you're either getting the job done or you're not. But you do have to keep that in mind.
It's very all or nothing because you can't drop people. People can back up, like they can drop out if they want to for personal reasons. But if they want to be on the team, you're stuck with that person. You can't not play. You can't not play with them. So picking someone up, you're locking them in for 6 months, whether you want to be there with them or not. And it's a huge risk. So picking up players who've already proven that they can stay on a team and perform relatively consistently for that period, that's just very safe compared to picking up someone who's never maybe done that, maybe never even tried. I mean, maybe they never even maintained the scrim schedule that HGC teams require.
That's the interesting thing, right? It's like, at what point do you? Because this is something Goon and I go back, not back and forth, because we both tend to agree, but we go around and around on where it's like, well, there needs to be a better way for people that are not current pros to make it into the pro system, not just through the cruise. So like, Zergling's a good example, sort of, other than what went down with him and causing it to not be his spot to be rescinded, basically.
And we don't have a lot of information on that. We have his side of the story, and we don't even know what org he was talking about. So we have no one else's side.
Right. But it's a good example, right? Of here's a situation where here's an amateur player trying out for a pro team. Ignore the rest of the drama. Like, there needs to be more of that, and I think the only way to get there is to have tryouts really be a thing. Because as long as you're not going to have tryouts, or if tryouts is not your priority, you're never going to be able to find those people that mesh well with you. Even if it's another pro, right? You're stuck in the, well, I know this guy made it through 6 months of HGC schedule, so I'm probably okay picking him up, right? But does that mean that's what's best for your team? No, but you probably stay out of Crucible. So is that good enough?
So here's my thing. Old habits die hard. All right. So Cav was talking about the culture, right? The culture associated with how the league plays out, who gets picked up, who doesn't get picked up,
right?
The shuffles that tend to happen. Oh, man. At what point do you just say, as a community, as HGC professional level players, do you say, you know what? just leave the mediocrity behind. All right? The same people are being regurgitated over and over again and producing the same mediocre to non-existent results. At what point do you just say, screw it, I'm gonna pick up somebody on an amateur team or somebody from Hero League or whatever the case may be? Because obviously the same people that we're cycling in over and over isn't doing anything. Now they say now they're ready. Now, okay, this person was a pro before or whatever. Now they're coming in and now they're saying that they're ready. Are they though?
The hook is going to help out, and we're going to see Stitches fall as well. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. It's the 1-for-1 trade as we once again have the Dragon Blade used on the side of Genji. He's trying that in. Dashes out, sail yellow.
That was just about the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's a dance party, and you're invited.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HGC Western Clash.
Results. So we had two events this weekend. We had the Horizon Clash over in Southeast Asia, and we had Heroes Hype Tempo Storm Lightning Fast tournament. Horizon Clash, I got to catch most of. I missed the first 2 games because of timing. I misread time zones.
Time zones are, in fact, hard.
Time zones are hard, especially when it's weird time zones. Overall, though, I thought it was good. Luna Meow was at the Eastern Clash, and Luna Meow is going to come to the Midseason Brawl. They won 4-2 over Resurgence. It was a fun set. It was fun to watch. There was an English stream, so I got to watch the English stream again, and was no confusion with that. Did any of you guys get a chance to watch that? If not, I totally understand.
I have not.
I did. As a general rule, if there's a professional game of Heroes of the Storm, I have watched it.
See, that's how I look at it, Cav.
Sometimes I lose a lot of sleep, but I have actually, and not only that, if there's a replay posted for it on Master League, I think I've actually watched more than 75% of the HGC replays that have ever been uploaded, like in the replay format, looking at specific things.
Yeah.
All right, now I don't go quite that far.
I think, and the only person I know for a fact watches more Heroes of the Storm than I do is I think Kala may actually watch as much or more Heroes of the Storm as I do, because he's watched a minimum of 6 hours a day every day for the last 2.5 years, I think, and I'm close to that number. So
that's a lot of hots.
Yeah, it is.
So then let me ask you this: did you watch the Heroes Hype Tempo Storm Lightning Fast tournament?
I did. Those games were interesting. It wasn't so much the speed. I feel like people underestimate how fast most pro players are processing the game and guessing what the enemy team's going to do. It was actually the infinite mana that made it the most interesting to me, because that made the comps like so much more different than you would normally expect.
Right. Well, and that's so when we do Creators of the Storm, we've always done ludicrous speed, which is the speed change, but we never done infinite mana. And in seeing what that did to the game, I'm going to make sure that when we do ludicrous speed next time, it includes infinite mana, because that was it like there was nonstop do whatever you want to do. It was crazy.
Is he coming? Am I gone?
Sorry.
I think I'm gone.
No, we're good.
No.
Hello?
I can hear you. Cav, we can hear you.
I can hear fine.
Yeah, I can hear fine too.
Oh, he looks frozen. Oh, there he goes. He's moving now.
The Windows update got him too.
It's like, this is not the night for this, apparently. Yeah, we can hear him. Oh, there he goes. Coming back.
Or is he?
Or maybe he finally did drop.
He just dropped.
All right, so now he's back.
Back.
I think we're back. Okay.
Yes.
Hey!
Okay.
It was you this time. Ha
I couldn't hear the call.
Oh, so strange.
I left and reconnected.
The gremlins are out tonight, man. You got to look out.
In full force.
Jesus. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Octalysis beat Tempo Storm in the first round 3-1. Heroes Hearth and Team Freedom were really close with the 3-2 Heroes Hearth winning that. Where the fun part of that was Mary Day was on Team Freedom's team, or was he?
Or was he?
That's a collusion smurf, by the way. So we're all clear on that.
Yes, it was. But it was fun to see. Like it was. I was hopeful because it would have been awesome to see Mary Day trying out for Freedom.
I mean, technically, Mary Day is eligible to compete in other regions because he hasn't played in HGC for more than 6 months. HGC in Korea for more than 6 months. But I don't actually know how good his English is. And realistically, there's so many teams that would pick him up in Korea, and you don't have to like move. And
right. You don't have to do anything. You just, I'm gonna play the game again. Okay, here, let us pay you. So, but then that set up a finals between Octalysis and Heroes Hearth, and that was fun to watch. Back and forth. But Heroes Hearth ended up winning 3-2, taking the first ever Heroes Hype Tempo Storm Lightning Fest tournament championship. I am really slow on my buttons tonight. All right. That's all the results we have. So, now for the point that I know Goon has been looking forward to. But
the reason I got invited onto the show.
Yes. But before we do that, I'm gonna Ryan Seacrest us for a minute because my wife is watching Idol in the background. Be right back. See, that was fast. All right. You know what, Goon? I'm gonna let you just start running with this because you didn't put anything in here yet for me to run with.
yeah. I didn't put anything in. I'm off the cuff. So obviously you're a coach, right? You coach Heroes of the Storm. You coach for professional players, professional teams, orgs, things like that. We had some coaches on a couple weeks ago. We had QB and we had Hero Physio on. And we talked, some stuff about coaching and whatnot, what they think. However, I want to get your input because recently, the GFE org imploded, and then along with that, there were some things that were said. I don't know the story. I don't think it matters really that much, but I want to get your insight as to in your eyes, in your opinion, what a coach is, I guess, supposed to be doing, or how a coach is most effective when it comes to providing input, insight for a team. What do orgs expect from a coach? Was that something that was mentioned to you before you showed up, and how do you like to handle the whole coaching role? I mean, are you a replay guy? Do you do life coaching as well? Like, what's your?
That's a lot of questions in the first statement, man.
So this is no, it's a good question. It's a good question. He's basically asking what is the most effective way to be a coach for a professional team, and for an amateur team, I think a lot of cases the answer is very much easier because amateur teams have a lot more flexibility in their roster, and you can usually identify like a weak player and be like, can we replace this person? And then you can start going from there. But it's when you get to start getting professional play where everyone's at the same level that it becomes a little bit more complicated. And I put a lot of work into studying the idea of coaching when I got picked up by GFE. When I got my first interview for GFE as a potential coach, actually 6 months, almost a year ago now, 6 months before the 2017 split, right after MSB, is when I got my first interview. And some of the players on the team didn't want to coach at that point. And I think that it's really important to understand what a coach doesn't do in terms of understanding why a coach is valuable. So a coach is not going to be a better player than any of the professional players. That's never going to be the case, or rarely going to be the case. There are exceptions. But you can look at professional sports, that doesn't happen. You can look at like all these things. That's just not the case.
Right.
What a coach does is it gives you someone to unite against as a team, someone you can all hate equally. But it just gives you an outside perspective, right? The coach isn't on anyone's side, or at least they shouldn't be on anyone's side. If a player is making a mistake, their job is to point it out. If a player is not making a mistake and it's actually someone else's fault, but the person whose fault it isn't is getting blamed, the coach points that out and getting the team to like listen and talk. You can think of coaches as being a moderator. You can think of a coach as like a performance enhancing sort of thing where you're getting people to focus on the right thing. Life coaching is going to be a part of it because attitude matters. McIntyre is a player who's improved a lot since his attitude got better, and something he acknowledges. And he got better because of something someone in his chat said. that actually changed his philosophy. Like, if you hadn't been toxic, would that game have actually been any different for you? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, it would have been different for me because I wouldn't feel this way afterwards.
Right.
That's actually such a big deal. So you need to do that. You need to focus on making sure your team has a really good attitude individually and as a team with each other. You want to foster a team environment where criticism is okay, because most of the times the players will be able to figure out what they did wrong, or one of the players will figure out what went wrong in like a team fighter scenario. But can they say that safely? Can they say it? And there's a classic group dynamic role where the first thing to be said is often wrong, but it's also the thing that the majority are going to agree with. This is just like a weird thing about human psychology. The first thing that gets said is the most commonly agreed with thing, but it's also most commonly wrong. So if you have like a 3-2 split, you want to be like, no, maybe we should look into the other side of it and see, and then you get the entire team on the same page. And it's very difficult to do. And none of that has to do with being good at the game. It just doesn't. You could literally be just someone who helped people get along, like a therapist, and you could probably be a coach for almost anything.
Yeah.
And then if you do happen to, understand something about the game or the mechanics of the game, you can point out errors, stuff like that. That's helpful, but it's not the primary job. I would think of that as more like an analyst's role, looking at stats, looking at positioning on the map, looking at mechanics. And it's something a coach can do, but it's not the job of a coach. And I think that's one of the things, particularly in North America, where players just don't understand exactly what a coach is good for. And that was the reluctance for so long to have coaches.
So you said that at the time the players didn't want to coach. What are some reasons why? I'm not going to get into, I don't want to get into. What are some reasons why, in your opinion, players wouldn't necessarily want to coach?
It was literally two players on the old GFE roster.
Okay.
In 2017 didn't want to coach, and the org couldn't convince them, I guess. And it literally came down to that. They thought that the only way that that anyone could help them is if they were already better than them. Not better at the game specifically. You have to be a better player to teach me anything.
That's interesting though, because if you think about that, right? Like, most of these players think they're mechanically great, gifted, and they understand the game and both the macro and the micro. So, to me, that's interesting. I would think in that situation, I wouldn't be looking for someone to fine tune my macro or micro, but more enhance the team capability as a whole.
The dynamic.
Right. And be that one person. Maybe it's not necessarily everybody against the coach, but be that person that could say, well, I'm not a player and I wasn't in that fight with you guys, but I can at least weigh in and say, this is where we could improve. Because I'm not, it's not like me attacking you, I guess.
Yeah. With that mentality, we want someone that's better than us. If that's the case, why aren't you playing in the amateur division right now? Because there's if you're in the amateur division, there's plenty of people that are better than you, right? I mean, sorry, I get hot, but
a little bit.
It doesn't make sense to me. And I think part of it is just it's a culture thing, because a lot of and this is going to sound like a little stereotypical, but a lot of the kids that grew up playing video games didn't grow up playing sports. They've never been in a softball league. They've never been, they didn't go out for high school teams necessarily. And so they've never had a coach. They literally have no experience with having a coach. So in their mind, this person's going to teach me to be better. But if I think I'm better than them, what can they teach me? That line of thinking makes sense. They don't understand that a coach is there to help them focus better, to give them mental discipline, to hold them to a standard of performance that they're, going to be hard. It's going to be hard to hold themselves to. Most people don't have the internal tools to hold themselves to a consistent standard of performance that is extremely high and difficult to achieve. They need someone on their team. I don't think there's any professional anything that doesn't have some sort of mentor or coach that they regularly turn to talk to when they have struggles.
That is great. Now that's something I'm gonna come up with a way to reach out to all the teams in NA and just find out how many of your players have actually done an organized sport prior to this, like a true or not like league soccer for adults, like a real organized sport.
I mean, it doesn't have to be just specific to sports. I mean, being in any kind of team environment, I mean, that's for me in my experience, I was in the military for 8 years, so a lot of my team experience came from being in the shit with, you know, a bunch of other people, you know,
Right,
that's where that came from. But something that you said that stuck out to me was having someone that holds them to a standard, to an expectation. I think that's like something that people don't talk about enough. That is, having that standard, that expectation is a powerful motivator in ensuring that the players, the team is working towards something, performing consistently, and it's overall healthy. If you don't have that standard, you got a bunch of people running around with their own ideas in their heads, clashing all the time. But yeah, that's a good point. And do you think, Cav, that in North America, as far as HGC is concerned and coaching and whatnot, do you think there is, how do I phrase this? I should have thought about this before. I should have written this down.
This is why we have notes, buddy.
Yeah, but do you think that a lot of the players, do they want a coach? Do they want somebody to be there for them to help them with that? Or do you think the culture is just like, no, we don't need them. We're just going to body without them?
I think the culture is starting to change. Honestly, I think that everyone on Tempo right now has experienced Kala, and they're like, oh, I get it now. Like they understand why they need a coach. Big E wasn't really thrilled about the idea of a coach, Big Impact. And actually, this is kind of one of the weirdest things that he ever said to me after everything was over. He said, "You really helped my confidence. You helped me play better. I really respect you as a person, but I don't respect you as a coach."
What?
I'm just like,
wait, I did all those things for you because I was your coach, but you don't respect me. Like, how does that work? Like, I gave you those things that you just thanked me for because I was your coach.
This is a real thing that happened. And like, he still doesn't get what a coach is for. He just doesn't get it. And it's changing over time. It's changing over time. It's something that like everyone in the pro scene was probably against like 2 years ago. And now every team that has had a coach has improved faster than teams that didn't have a coach. And other teams are looking at that and be like, well, we gotta have a coach because obviously it's helping people.
Right. At what point is it just about survival, right? EU has all coaches. They're stomping us. And these two NA teams have coaches, and they're improving fast. Like, maybe we should do that, right?
And it shows. Yeah, it shows the skill level and the way they perform, the way they move on every little decision they make is with a purpose. Every single movement they make is with a purpose. And you don't see that with teams that aren't coached. They have to sit there and think as the game is going on, what do we want? Like, so I coach an amateur team. I coach Reborn. They're an open division team. And I always try to instill this mindset of out before the game, outside the game, think about how you want to play, think about what needs to be done. And when we're doing our replays, discuss all the options, discuss what we did, all the options, all the potential options. And then when it comes time to going back and playing the game, when we're presented with that situation again, we just instinctively just react the way we had already discussed. We're all on the same page. We're going to move. We're going to decide on this faster. We're going to move faster, and we're going to be better because of that. And I try to do that and try to instill that, thinking ahead in the game, outside the game, as much as possible.
Well, it's called standards practice. So, like, I think in soccer, I haven't actually played soccer, but I read a lot about coaching. In soccer, there's something called standards practice where there's really common situations that come up a lot.
Yeah.
And so you just make people practice that situation a lot. It doesn't always apply to those situations, but in the very common situations, they're going to be really good. I did something very similar with GFE. We were not so great on Team the Spider Queen, and it was mostly our early game rotations that were bad. And we had a scrim block where I asked the team, can we just race to 10 on Tomb over and over again? And so we spent, same draft, an hour doing nothing but Tomb the Spider Queen to level 10. And if you go look at HGC, listen to Dread talk about the way we play on Tomb, Dread is really impressed with the way GFE played on Tomb. And it was, that was the start of that. That was the start of us getting really good at Tomb the Spider Queen.
Yeah.
And standards practice is a really important thing. Like there's really not any sort of situational thing. There's odd situations in Heroes of the Storm that come up when both teams are playing evenly for a long period of time, like over an entire course of a game. But most situations in Heroes of the Storm are fairly standard and come up a lot. And if you just practice responding to standard situations consistently and winning standard situations consistently, you're going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, I think identifying that, hey, we're doing the standard, like saying, hey, team, this is what we're doing. And you guys are aware, now they're aware of that. Now they're, oh, I get it now. This game just got easier. A lot of people don't have that. They don't, understand, like, why are we bashing our head? Like, we suck at this map. Can we just play another map? Let's just ban this map.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're showing you, we're teaching you. Now we want you to identify and see for yourself what's going on here, so then you can make that adjustment yourself.
And I think having a coach is also something that allows players to focus on a limited number of things. These are the things, like, you give them the list. This is the stuff you need to focus on, and the coach can think of the rest of the things. He's like, oh, well, we need to move work on team. How can we do that? Oh, well, we can do this, and it frees up players instead of having to do this meta thing of thinking about how they need to manage the interpersonal connections of their team, or how they need to manage like the coach handles that, and you just focus on your play and the things that he tells you need to focus on, and it's very liberating in a way to have a coach, I think, for a lot of players.
So I have a question that I like to ask HGC coaches. That is, do you do replay reviews?
I do. I did, I should say.
You did. Right. It is fine. Okay. So, but you saw value in that.
I do. And actually one of the things we did, bearing in mind this only works on current patch replays, so if a patch happens, you're screwed. One of the things I did was I would actually watch other top teams replays from their perspective. So we'd go into the replay as a group, everyone would watch it from the perspective of the hero that they would be playing. And we'd be watching KSV, or we'd be watching Dig, and we would be talking about what we would have done and what actually happened in those situations.
That's it. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I might have to steal that one.
You guys steal that race to 10 on Tomb all day for an hour.
No, so next question that I want to ask: do you think that the success of the teams in this next split, the most successful teams, will have the best support system in place for that team? Coaches.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, I think even GFE, the roster that we had, would have done better if our support system had been better. The org had been dying for a while. Michael Udall was promised a boot camp as part of his condition of coming back because he wanted the team to start out HGC on a really strong note. That never happened. And literally, I think 30 to 40 minutes of our team discussion, every scrim block was taken up with what's going on with the org. Is the org going to pay us? I think they were late on paying the players several times. The staff haven't gotten paid since February. So that took an enormous toll on the team and their focus. And teams that either don't have an org, so they don't have to think about it, or have a reliable org, simply don't have that distraction. That's a really big deal. So teams that have better support networks are going to perform better.
Yeah. In your opinion, what can an org do? What should an org do to be, I guess, supporting their players? Like, obviously paying them and whatnot, but what is the best way they can support their players?
It's a matter. Paychecks are fine. Paychecks are fine. No one's going to argue with the paycheck. But the best thing that orgs can do to support their players is actually make the player themselves feel valued. And that comes down not just to giving them a paycheck, but to checking in every so often, letting the management know they care. Like, do you need anything? Is there anything we can do? Giving them free merch. Because it's not just the free thing. It's like they're actually checking in. It seems like they actually care about each individual player, and that makes them feel more connected to their org. It makes them feel like I'm not just playing for myself. I'm playing for the name on my jersey, which is full of people that I really care about. The staff. You want to try to develop interpersonal connections, and I mean, people are dumb. They won't necessarily do what's in their best interest in a lot of cases. But if they like someone, they'll probably do their best for that person.
I don't know. Okay. All right. So that's good to know. That's good to know. Anybody else have anything they want to throw in the bags? You've been quiet, dude.
I just want to know what you said to Big E after he disrespected you like that, man. I probably would have went off the handle. I don't.
I think I said, I appreciate your honesty. Good luck next split.
There you go.
Very, very professional of you. I think I would have gotten very unprofessional very quickly.
Yeah.
So right, like you never want to burn that bridge, even as asinine as that comment may have been.
Well, I'm just
right.
I don't know. I try to always be professional, and it's a job.
Right.
Yeah. So
right.
He made a comment like that, and you've been fairly candid so far tonight. Was there any other times where like you felt like you were just like, man, like I can't get through these guys? Like what's going on? Like was there a moment where you're like you felt hopeless, so to speak? Like I know that's heavy, but I'm curious. Like we're all human.
If it's too heavy, we can make it a little broader. Like what was the now that it's over with?
Yeah.
What was the experience coaching last split for GFE?
I mean, so I struggle with depression. It's something I've always struggled with, and just this basic idea of performing consistently. So for me, it's like it's a little difficult sometimes. But what is something? I think double support, not even double support, but Tastar comps was the struggle. Because we would play Tastar comps, we would watch other teams play Tastar Alonzo, and I'd be like, guys, you have to not be aggressive, or even just macro comps in general, where there was like the late game scaling condition, like you have to not be aggressive early, you have to play defensively, stay on your side of the map, and we just could not seem to do this as a team. It was always we're going to go in, even if we want to play defensively, we're just always going in. And I think it's one of the reasons we had such success with Jaina, because Jaina is a hero that can kill someone at any point in the game. I think we had a better win with Jaina than actually any other HGC team. I think that's still true. But it was because it fitted our style. And I decided that that's the style they want to play. That's fine. It's going to leave them vulnerable to teams that figure that out, which it did.
It did, yeah.
But I think it's important as a coach to sometimes step back and acknowledge what your players want and try to enable them in that. And it can be really difficult when you think there's something better, but it's harder. And again, there was morale issues. So that was a question. It's like, this may technically be better for them in the long term, but do they need the long term right now, or do they need an easy win to get their morale up? So I think that for my first time coaching a professional team, that was probably not the ideal scenario to do it. That was a particularly difficult situation.
Yeah.
And I think everyone did, as far as they're concerned, their absolute best in it.
Do you think another random thought question? Do you ever feel, I'm asking a lot of these questions because, I want to know, as someone that aspires to be a coach, high level coach one day or something like that. I'd like to get some insight. Do you ever feel like there's players that when you meet them and you've been with them for a while and you've I guess tried to help mold them into a certain way or try to help them assimilate into the team culture in a certain way? Do you feel like sometimes there are some players that you can't just do that with, or are you of the mindset where everyone has the potential, can be molded?
So my wife's a teacher, and this is relevant because she struggles every day with her students. She comes home this about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And there's a lot of actual research on this about whether or not humans have a fixed mindset, they're only capable of certain things, or whether or not humans actually have a growth mindset where you actually are capable of things if you try. And all the research has indicated that growth mindset is actually accurate to our physiology. You can form new neural connections. You can learn things you don't already know how to do. You can improve. So
you can become a better you.
And I'm gonna quote Dune here. which is there's a quote from Doom which I love, which was that the first thing Paul Moadib ever learned was that he could learn.
Right.
And so I think that's the first thing you need to teach people. If you want a player to really improve, you have to look at them and be like, look, you can do this. This is something you're capable of if you work at it and practice it. Do you want to do this? Because if you don't want to do this, just like let us know and we'll stop trying to make you. But don't tell us you can't do it when you haven't tried.
Because you can.
You can't.
Don't want to.
You just it may be really difficult. Maybe you don't want to put in that level of work. Maybe you just want to do something easier. And tell us that. It's fine. But don't tell us you can't do this. Tell us you can't do this right now, but you're gonna spam the hero every day in Hero League until you can.
Yeah. I find that a lot of players tend to reach a certain point where it's they feel they're doing everything they can in every rank really. They feel they're doing everything they can to win the game, but it's that matchmaking though, right? That matchmaking just
the matchmaker hates me. It's got to be that. That's got to be the problem here.
Yeah. But yeah, you sit down, you reflect on what you can, shifting the focus from what's out there to like what's right here. Me, what am I doing? What can I be doing? What do I need to be looking for? That's really hard. That's really hard for a lot of people to do. How did you do that for your team? Were you able to do that, or?
It was difficult. Like we had a little bit of a problem with Hanzo comps. We knew Hanzo was strong because we were constantly scrimming HHE and Tempo, and we had we were playing against Som and Kron's Hanzo, and it was hard. And I went and looked at it, and I was like, why is Som so good at Hanzo? Well, Som got placed in Plat 4 this season. That season of Hero League, he had an account that got placed in Plat 4, and no one was banning Hanzo at those ranks. He literally went all the way up to GM playing mostly Hanzo in that.
Yeah, that'll do it for you.
And like, why was Kron so good? Well, he was playing a lot of Hanzo, and it was just like they've played like 200 games of Hanzo since he released. How many games of Hanzo have you played? Not that many. So maybe that's why you're not so good at Hanzo. And then they're like, fuck. And they went and ground Hanzo, and they got better at it. And I think actually Big E's Hanzo is quite good now. It's still not his preferred play style. Michael's Hanzo is quite good, although it's not going to matter because he's role swapping support.
Yeah.
But it was just like I told them, you guys can do this.
Yeah.
You can do this, because unless you think these guys are 100% better than you, then just do what they did and you'll get there. And they were like, well, I don't. And it was literally, I don't want to acknowledge that they're better than me. So I'm going to go grind this hero and get better at it. Biggie's like a little bit competitive, so.
Can we address that you'd all going support? Like what? My brain broke when I heard that. And ignore all the other drama around that whole situation. Like, my brain literally shut down when I heard he was moving to support. And I was just like, why?
Well, you need a support.
Well, I mean, I know that, but
they're actually down to support. So
Michael has really good comms. So the three strengths of Michael Udall as a professional player: one, he has really good comms. He has a really broad hero pool, and he's actually a really gifted shot caller. So 2 out of 3 of those are going to be just as valid on support as they are in any other role. His hero pool is going to go to waste. That's just a given. But one of the nice things about being on support as a shot caller is you're never split from your team. Ideally, if you watch Dig or KSV or any of those players, the support's always with the largest clump of the team. So as a shot caller, that's a big bonus. You're not having a shot call from the off lane. Last year when he played off lane, his shot calling got substantially worse because he had no idea what was going on a lot of the time. If he's like the macro hero in a comp and he's catching the wave and the 3-man is like ganking someone bottom, he doesn't see it, he doesn't know exactly what's going on. It's a problem. I actually think either your tank or support are probably the best positions to shot call from. So there's that. And I actually think in team fights, supports have some of the most critical cooldowns at turning. And so knowing those are up and knowing to call the turn is actually a really big benefit. And it's not like he can't play these heroes. He already plays support whenever we run a double support comp.
Yeah.
He's literally not adding any new heroes to his hero pool except maybe Stukov that he's not 100% comfortable in yet. So if you need a support and it's really good to shot call, and your benefit to a team is that you're shot calling and it's good to shot call from the support position, Why not?
Well, why not do it? Yeah. Okay. All right. I can.
Yeah.
I can.
I mean, the way I see support is, people see support as healer. They say healer. No. That's not what it is. It's more than that. You're calling out cooldowns. Enemy cooldowns, your cooldowns, your team's cooldowns. You're seeing other things on the map, on the field that your team isn't necessarily seeing. Like, you're the support. You're making sure that all that intel is there. And hey, if someone's about to die, you got that cleanse, you've got that D shield, you've got that ancestral. But yeah, it's all encompassing. It's not just you. Anyways, I'm a support main, so whatever.
A little biased.
I hate playing support. I hate playing support. So.
It's very rewarding. Very, very, very rewarding. So Cav, another question. What's next for you, man? Are you going to look to be on another HGC team as a coach? Do you want to stay involved with HGC? Like, after all this experience that you've gained, what are you looking to do?
That's actually a really good question. I mean, I would be happy to coach another HGC team. And actually, the problem with continuing to coach GFE is I simply can't afford to invest that level of time for free. Right. And without GFE in existence, there's no org to pay me.
Right.
So, I think Michael and BKid would have actually been interested in having me stay on as a coach. Fury and Aka aren't on the team, so we're not going to count them. But so it's not like I got kicked off the team, so to speak. It's that there's just no one to pay me, and I can't invest that level of time. So if there was another org that wanted to pick me up, I would certainly entertain the offer. I will probably go back to writing guides more for the moment, at least, and see if anything happens with the next split, or if maybe an EU team wants to pick me up as a coach. I think the only sponsored EU team that doesn't have a coach is Tricked, though. And according to rumors, they're going to become a meme team that doesn't try. So I probably wouldn't want to coach them if that was the case. As much as I love Alex is probably one of my favorite players, and actually gave me one of the best compliments ever. When I cast the Gold Club World Championship, he said, "You're one of the few casters I didn't actually mute."
Well,
so,
that's huge.
Oh,
wow. Normally when he watches games, he mutes the casters, and he was like, "Yeah, everything you say made sense. I didn't." I was like, "Thanks."
There you go, man.
Good old Alex. So, okay, right on. You're a very professional person. Like the way you communicate, the way you address your ideas, communicate your ideas, and whatnot. Very professional. Do you think professionalism is something that more individuals in HGC need to learn? And if so, what's your advice for them, man?
Yes, because it's a job. Everyone needs to learn to be professional at some point. And in fairness, they're in a rough spot. This is, by the way, something an org can do to prove it cares about its members. Going back to an earlier question, is give your players classes in how to be a professional, how to write a professional statement, how to behave in a community, how to financial planning. Financial planning is actually a big thing that will prove that an org cares about you. It's like, yeah, you're making this amount of money. Like, make a budget? What's your monthly thing? How much can you invest in retirement? Like, what are your long-term plans? Right. And that's not exactly free, but it's not that expensive, and it actually will really show that the org cares about you as an individual and not just as a player on XYZ team that they happen to sponsor.
I mean, I've been talking about wanting to sponsor a team for a while. Bahgz can attest to that. And after the drama from this, not just GFE, just all of drama, I'm seriously questioning that. But that's actually, those are really, really easy things that an org could do to show.
Yeah, they really are.
Right? Like, that's really not that hard, right? Okay, I'm going to get a lower end financial planner to come and sit down with these people, talk about budgeting, talk about what to do with their money and how to plan for the future. I'm going to get someone that can show you, this is how you, type a proper statement or release. Like, that's a college professor that wants to make a little bit of money on the side, English professor, right? Coming in for a little bit of money on the side.
Maybe have someone proofread your tweet longer before you throw it out there.
Yeah,
right.
Have an in.
He muted.
Oh no, you muted.
I'm muted.
Yeah.
Oh no,
You're good now.
You're good
cut
now.
out
You're
there
good
for a
now.
second.
You're good
Okay.
now.
Org should have an in-house editor. They should have an in-house artist that people can go to and be like, "Hey, I want an overlay," or
Yes.
I want this proofread. Can you like? And that's just something that org should have, and wouldn't be that. It's not that difficult to have, right? To have one something like that. But the point I'm making here is that most of the people who play professional video games are young. They're, you know, I think Breeze started playing professionally when he was 16. Although Breeze is not a good example because Breeze has never done anything stupid in public. But you know, go back, think about when you were 18, 19, 20. You probably did some stupid things. You probably committed some social faux pas without realizing it, and then later were like, "Oh my god, that is probably the most embarrassing thing I've ever done," and I didn't even realize it at the time.
Right.
It's hard, and you're being thrown into the situation where you have some sort of notoriety, you have some fame. If you're streaming regularly, you're on camera multiple hours a day, and maybe you say things you shouldn't. Like, it can be a difficult thing, and I think there needs to be some forgiveness from the community when something is obviously just a mistake that someone made they didn't realize. And there needs to be professional players who need to be like, "Oh yeah, that was stupid, I shouldn't have said that."
Well, like,
and just apologize. And like, ties back into a coach sees you do something stupid like that, he should help you through the process of apologizing to the community for your actions. Shout out to Mopsio, by the way, who actually went through this process and is working with a therapist, and he's no longer Toxio.
It's funny. We found that out live on the show, I think, one night. So one of the chat members said Toxio, and Mopsio was watching the show at the time, and he's like, "Hey, wait, whoa!" And then he went on and commented in chat about how he went and found a therapist, and he kind of, he changed his ways. And then literally in chat, the fan was like, "Oh no, it was a Reddit thread. I'm sorry, it was a Reddit thread for our show." Yeah. And he commented in the Reddit thread, and that actual Reddit user came back and said, well, you just earned a lot of respect from me, yada yada yada. Kudos to you for going out and doing that.
Right. Well, I think I want to go back to something you said, right? If you're an org offering an editor for them to proofread stuff and offering a graphics person for like overlays, like as an org, you probably have those already. Chances are good you at least have the graphics person, if not on staff, someone that you already
on retainer
with. Right.
Yeah.
So like share that with your players. It's not that, yes, it will cost you a little, but it's definitely better than them just doing whatever they want that may not go along with your brand the way you want.
Well, and it's cost efficient for the org to have someone undertake pieces of work. It might be actually cheaper for the org to do that than it would be for the individual players to go get it for themselves. So you're not only providing a really convenient service to your players, it's costing them less than it's costing you. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, when they talk about these costs, most esports orgs aren't actually good at making money. So adding costs is not like high on their list of priority. Tempo is actually a major exception, and I actually think if anyone wants to start an esports org, they should go look at what Reynad did. When Reynad started Tempo with his own money, he built a website that was capable of making content for the game that he was involved in, Hearthstone. And then he opened the site up so that everyone could make content on it for free, which drove traffic, which ads is where most of the money comes from. I mean, even esports leagues in and of themselves are essentially for the game, right? Blizzard puts all this money into HGC because it advertises Storm. They don't want a pro scene necessarily. It's that they want a really good way to advertise their game and encourage people to play it and continue to play it. And having high level players on stream gives you a goal to achieve, so you keep playing to sort of go there, or you can root for someone. Like, there's lots of reasons that it works as advertising. And then Reynad hired people to make content that he paid them for, and he preferred that content. And it was people who had more experience with the game, had some sort of established reputation, and that brought their viewer base into his site.
Right.
So if you want to make money as an esports org so that you can do these things for your players, make sure that you're making content and that content is being profitable. Just getting sponsors, nah. I mean, at this point, I actually don't understand why a lot of sponsors sponsor esports orgs rather than having their own. I feel like Wish or Roll20 is like, that's the future. If you want to sponsor a team, and you're cutting out the middleman at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more money, but you get to have your literal name on the team. It's just not necessarily the case otherwise.
So essentially what you've been saying is invest in your players, invest in them. They will invest in you. People on the outside will invest in the organization and the player. And it's a cycle, right?
It really is.
And you know, investing in your player doesn't necessarily mean, you know, shelling out the dough, right? It could be like you said, hey, we can create these overlays for you. We can do this. We can push your content out there. We can highlight your stuff or whatever. I feel though that in order to do that, there has to be some longevity with your rosters, with your players. Do you think that the current HGC landscape with this 6 months, do you think that's enough time? Do you think that is a healthy ecosystem for this kind of stuff? Or
well, I think that ties back into being professional, right? Because it should be that you're providing all the services to your players because you're your player. If you decide that they need to leave the roster, it should be an amicable parting. You should be like, it didn't work out. You know, for whatever reason, we just need you off the team. And they shouldn't rage about that, and the org shouldn't be like mean about it.
Right.
And they should be straightforward and honest. Be like, you know, your spot's never 100% secure. We like you personally, but if we think we can do better with a different team, we're going to replace you. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And
the other thing I would point out,
that's a hard thing to achieve. It's a hard thing to achieve for a lot of people.
The other thing I would add is if you look at like Heroes Hearth and Tempo, that are especially Tempo, right? Tempo is probably the best bet at profitable NA organization that we have. The longevity is there only because whether it's they carefully pick their pieces this season or whether it's they set them up for success this season, did the right things to enable that team. Not make any changes. I don't think they're making changes.
Yeah, I mean, Team Freedom, right? They're not making any changes either, from what I understand.
I think the top 3 teams in NA are roster lock. They're not changing anything.
Yeah, so we're seeing some longevity here,
right?
You know,
well,
which
that
is
was
good.
my point, right?
Well,
like you'll see that once you hit that kind of plateau of my players are hitting where I need them to hit, so now I can have that longevity.
Yeah. Interesting. It's definitely interesting. There's so many different little nooks and crannies with this conversation, with these topics here. But I mean, Team Freedom, it's not like they were at the top of the leaderboard, right? I mean,
they were for a little while.
Okay.
They're number 1 in Bahgz' heart.
Bahgz, yeah, number 1 Team Freedom fanboy, by the way.
They were for a little while, and then they went to EU, and something with the whole flow changed. I don't know exactly what happened, but they it was when they went to the EU for the Clash. They went to EU to boot camp, which we all thought was a great thing, and that went pretty poorly because their Clash results were horrible. And then post Clash, I mean, they were still a top 4 team in NA, but they were like 4th. So yeah. I don't know what went wrong, but
well, if you think of Heroes Hearth getting better, their position literally didn't change to anyone else. It's just Heroes Hearth improved.
Right.
But their Clash results were disappointing, but also they did go to EU, and the first day of Clash, NA had the better meta.
Yeah.
And then they had the better meta because we've run melee assassin in consistently. And we've run Kerrigan, we've run at that point we had been running Thrall in the offlane, although I hadn't seen a lot of play in HGC, or Thrall in the 4-man, just hadn't seen a lot of play in HGC yet, so it didn't like showed it. But historically we'll run a melee assassin in the 4-man, and EU does not. So they weren't playing Maev at all because they couldn't offlane with her, and they didn't want to run her in the 4-man because they didn't have melee assassin players who were people who are comfortable in that role. And so day 1 we had the better meta, and then literally we started losing once Maev was banned.
Yeah.
But Freedom didn't get clued in on that because they weren't scrimming against any teams. And so as a result, they had the EU meta, but they played the EU meta worse than the EU teams did. That's what it came down to.
Well, I wasn't trying to throw some shade at Team Freedom. That's not the point I was trying to make. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, they had their results, decent, right? But they didn't make any changes. The org didn't go belly up, as far as we know, and they're staying with what they have, with what they know, because they understand that they can do a lot better, and they will do a lot better.
Right. If they didn't think that, they should absolutely make a change.
Right.
Because if they've been fourth, and essentially, Heroes Hearth improved, right? So their position didn't really change much. They're where they are. So either there's something they have to fix with their team, or there's a particular player that's causing, or players even, it's causing an issue with their team synergy, and that needs to be addressed.
I feel like
it's hard to say, like without looking at without looking at scrim results, it's really hard to determine if that is what's going on, or if it's just that they need to have a higher standard for themselves and they're not improving enough.
Yeah, sometimes, I just feel like, and I don't know, I'm just some random bum on the internet that likes to talk, right? I feel like a lot of these teams tend to give up pretty quickly and just say, well, you know what? At the end of these 6 months, we'll just make a new roster and hopefully we win. I don't know. I don't think that's healthy for anybody. But anyways,
got to build up that chemistry, right?
You do, and building up synergy is a real thing. So there's that aspect. It's like if they all have a very similar play style and they're all happy playing together, it's fine. Maybe maybe what they need is someone new to come in, and not even as a player, but maybe like a different coach to come in and do a different standard, or maybe like a different perspective. I don't know.
Right. Bring in a different look.
Because what they're doing is treading water, which is not really.
That's also not good. Yeah.
Right on.
Cool. All right, so I know we had some technical issues and everything, but we're gonna start wrapping up. There's not a lot to preview right now. I know next week we're doing a bit mid-season brawl show, preview mid-season brawl, because that is running June 9th, or starting June 9th, and then also next week we'll have some guests on. I think we're gonna go over rosters, because rosters are dropping on Thursday. At least in theory, we're supposed to get rosters on Thursday. We'll see how that goes.
I'm pretty sure we will, because I think most people know they're just holding off because Blizzard asked them not to announce till the 24th.
Right. No, and I agree. I think that's all it's going to come down to. But thank you, CavalierGuest, for joining. We appreciate it. It's always interesting to get your point of view, especially after going through a split like you guys had, where it was like split.
It was a crucible, but it lasted 10 weeks.
It's actually not a bad way to put it. Definitely. Definitely everyone on that team is into certain things.
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
DGP. That's what I'm going to take away from this.
For listening. Trollin HGC.
Yes. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
And hanging out, even through the troubles. I apologize. Goon and I are going to work on some stuff this week to make sure that if we have that problem again, we have it covered. So, yeah. Bahgz, where can people find you?
Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Bahgz HGC. You can watch me stream on twitch.tv/Bahgz. Goon, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at GoonHots. You'll find my eye emojis there, on people's responding to people's tweets and stuff, my side eyes. I stream twitch.tv/GoonHots. I ramble about topics like this all the time on there. And kind of just throw my thoughts out there for everyone to make fun of and whatnot.
Yep.
If you ever want to talk about anything, hit me up. I'm always down to talk. I love talking to people about HOTS and the community. Whatever. I'm always around, and I want to hear your opinions as well. But
Thursday he starts.
Oh yes,
show.
Thank you. Yeah. So this Thursday, I'm announcing it right here. This Thursday, it's going to be actually at 6 p.m. Pacific. The Nexus Trolls, the new era begins this Thursday. Hostile takeover, blood everywhere.
The Goon Squad.
With my good friend Soken and Aramis as well. He will be joining me on the show, talking about just, normal, your typical day-to-day Heroes of the Storm stuff, patch notes, metas, things like that. A lot of
I'm sure Nexus
focus on
Mania will
education.
come up.
Yeah, of course, all that stuff, all that good stuff is gonna come up. But stay tuned.
So, Cav, normally I would ask you for shout-outs, but where can people find you now?
People can still find me at twitch.tv/CavalierGuest. I'm actually not streaming this week, but starting next week, I'll be back to my regular streaming schedule. And Monday, I will actually be doing a meta prediction show for Mid-Season Brawl.
Nice.
So I'm gonna be talking about what I think the meta is gonna be. Now, 2 caveats here. One, I have a little bit of insider information from talking to players and scrim results, but they've only been telling me certain things about certain roles. I haven't been asking for entire comps.
Okay.
And 2, I know what certain people have been practicing in Hero League, which may or may not reflect on the meta, because sometimes people just troll things in Hero League, but sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's other stuff. So
Zugrug Murky is coming.
Yeah, Zugrug Murky's definitely coming, even though Freedom's not going to.
We'll see it, though.
We're gonna see it. It's gonna be called the Zugrug Murky.
But yeah, and I think it'll be fun to tune in. So you guys can do that. Twitch.tv/CavalierGuest. I'm the same on Twitter, and I have a Discord called the Nexus Schoolhouse, which I'm not running it because I don't have time to admin it, but it's actually running an in-house league every night right now. So the way that works is you click a spreadsheet, just sign up. You can give yourself a role, and people will pick teams based on what role you assign, whether you're tank, flex, ranged, offlane, or support, and you just play 5v5s and customs with an actual draft and with actual roles.
Cool.
Nice.
So people want to join the Nexus Schoolhouse Discord, check that out.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We always having you on. I know I said that already, but I'm saying it again because we really do.
I don't mind hearing it again, to be honest.
That's good to know. Good to know. All right. So with that, I only have one other thing to say. Thank you to our chieftain, Super Dave. Without you, all of this stuff we do wouldn't be possible.
That's a fact.
Amen. All right. Follow us on Twitter at Trollin HGC. Find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/trollsgg. Or on YouTube, same place, youtube.com/trollsgg. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and any other podcast platform that you might use. Make sure to tell us how we're doing by either commenting on one of those platforms and giving us a rating or sending us an email. Visit our website, www.trolls.gg, to find all of our articles and our past podcasts on demand. You know, tweet us directly. Our DMs are always open, and all 3 of us keep up with that Twitter account quite regularly. So at Trollin HGC if you want to. Thank you, chat, for dealing with the technical difficulties we had tonight. And thank you, everybody, for being here and watching the show. We'll see you in the Nexus.
Peace out.
See ya.